Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of religion.
And I'm Gary, and today we're going to review and discuss Calvary, which released in 2014 from writer-director John Michael McDonagh. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows Brendan Gleeson's character, Father James. He's a priest and is part of this community of a lot of really strange, kind of eccentric characters. He's told one Sunday in confession by one of them that they are going to murder him. And so he spends the rest of his week interacting with a few more of the characters to find out their histories, their background, and if there's any way that he can stop the inevitable.
I'm going to kill you, Father. I'm going to kill you because you've done nothing wrong. I'm going to kill you because you're innocent.
So Brendan Gleeson started working with writer-director John Michael McDonagh in 2011 on a film called The Guard. And that is where the two of them actually started to formulate and come up with this Father James character, and they started to work on it whilst developing and filming The Guard. A few years later, they obviously got the film written and made. I think it premiered at Sundance Film Festival and then quietly kind of just disappeared into streaming services. And,
Yeah.
And this was a film, I'd seen The Guard, but I'd never even heard of this one even releasing.
Yeah, I'd seen The Guard as well randomly on Film 4 many years ago, and I thought it was really funny, the interactions that Brendan Gleeson has with Don Cheadle in that, and the kind of... It's like Brendan Gleeson's playing like an Irish bad lieutenant. Yeah. He's driving around Ireland, taking drugs and dealing with crime in his own way. And then I suppose I can see now where they formulated kind of the same formula for this one, where they're like, oh, if we just change the character to a priest and then his interactions with all these different people with religion and things like that. But where The Guard has dark comedy, it's funny in places, and I suppose that comes from the Irish way of looking at stuff compared to the American way of looking at stuff with Don Cheadle's character. In this, people say it's funny or think it might be funny, but I don't think, I laugh. I don't think I should. I think I'm wrong for doing it.
No.
Yeah, man, because there's many layers in this film, Calvary, where you're along the ride with Father James. You're hearing these confessions from these people. You're hearing some great performances from Chris O'Dowd and Dylan Moran and Kelly Reilly, Aidan Gillen, fucking Wormfinger, whatever his name. Littlefinger from Game of Thrones, And I see him with a mustache. I'm like, nah, this is not going to be funny. People are going to die.
Well, he's a doctor in this. He's going to save lives.
Does he? I'm pretty sure he helps kill people. Didn't he say that at one point?
Yeah.
Excuse me, won't you? I have to go kill somebody.
But that's the gallows humour of a doctor.
Yeah.
An Irish doctor. But yeah, this film, it grabs your attention from the opening sequence where we start with Father James. He's in his church. He's in the town's church. He doesn't say it's his. And he's accepting confessions.
Yeah.
We don't see the person that's confessing, but this person says, Father, next Sunday, I'm going to kill you. Please come down to the beach so that I don't have to look for you and I can kill you.
Yeah.
The reason why is because you are an innocent. And I was brutally raped habitually by priests when I was a child. And so even though you didn't perpetrate any of those crimes, you will be the one that I exact my revenge upon. See you next Sunday. I'm giving you the whole week to prepare and say your goodbyes and get your affairs in order.
Yeah.
See you then. Goodbye. And that is the premise of the film that we then start Saturday, Sunday, Monday, all the way to Sunday.
Yeah.
Where they have this looming threat of this execution coming. And throughout this film, it's pretty much an introspective character study on Father James as he continues his daily routine whilst also accepting or dealing with the fact that one of his
flock
one of his flock, one of his sheep,
Yeah.
is going to kill him at the end of the film.
Yeah. And over the courses of the days, of this week, we interact with all of these different characters. And it's not like I agree with their perspective on their lives or how they are, but I kind of understand. And then when you have Brendan Gleeson's character there, this representative of the church in which these people are supposed to be attending, they're supposed to be going to mass, they're supposed to be, dealing with their sins and things like that. But he's feeling, I suppose with Father James, he's feeling many different things. He's feeling rejection. He's feeling anger at them. He's feeling, upset. But he's not showing it, which I suppose is good. He's a professional priest. He's able to keep it all internalized. But you start to slowly uncover things going on from the offset where he hears about this lady, Veronica. She's got a black eye. It turns out that her husband, Chris O'Dowd, playing Jack Brennan, has hit her. But then when Father James goes to speak with Veronica, you start to find out that actually, she's a bit of a loose lady, shall we say. She has many lovers around, one of them being Simon, played by Isaac de Bacoli. I hope I have not totally butchered that name, but he's another kind of character in which Brendan Gleeson speaks to question if he's beating on Veronica, and
he all but confesses it, right?
he all but does, but at the same time he's got some history himself with the priesthood from where he used to come from. Like, we find out he's from the Ivory Coast, don't we?
Yeah.
Which obviously, there's some religious church problem things going down there, but we won't really stray too far into that. But you see where I'm going with how this film feels and structures, where I was sat there like, I'm really hoping Brendan Gleeson gets a lot more funnier through this movie, because I'm loving his comebacks when he's talking to people.
Yeah.
He always has like a really good rebuttal or whatever.
He's not just on the moral high ground, but he is also offering a hand. He's
yes.
like, could you not see, like, you may be confessing or not confessing, but I'm trying to dance around your issue, but they are just so set in their ways that they just kind of dismiss or don't really acknowledge Father James or don't appreciate what he's actually doing.
Yeah.
And he is bearing all of their sins on his shoulders, and it's never affecting him, or he's never letting anyone see how it's affecting him.
Yeah.
And coming after the opening sequence of the confessional and the setup for the murder that's going to happen,
Yeah.
it's a great contrast when we see him on the Sunday service and he's giving everyone the blessings, and you're watching all these parishioners come in and you're like, which one is it? Which one is the one that said it's going to kill him at the end of the film?
Yeah.
So you're constantly looking at all of the cast, and there's like 12 supporting actors in the film, like the 12 disciples.
Yeah.
And one of them is going to portray Father James.
Yeah. I like that little interaction he has with the choir boy, where he's just like, I've noticed, like, the wine has gone up and down in level. It's because you keep stealing it and selling it on, and the little choir boy is great. It's just, he doesn't act like he's been caught, but it's like a little wink to like, I know if you know, and all that kind of stuff. I'll try to tone it down a bit. They have another little beautiful moment on the beach where he comes across and the boy's painting a picture. And the father's just like, who's that? And he's like, oh, they're probably ghosts on the beach. But it's just so beautifully shot, the sand, the sea, the grass, everything just looks amazingly beautiful. When you then, compare it to, say, like when he goes to meet Jack, Chris O'Dowd's character, in the butcher's shop, and there's all meat hanging up, and Chris O'Dowd, absolutely loved him in the IT Crowd. I know he's done a few other films after that with, like, things like Gulliver's Travels with Jack Black, and I think he was in Bridesmaids as well. But this, like, is probably the darkest I've ever seen him play.
Yeah, I mean, he is a defeated man who is also a cuck, but he also explains that he is now happy because his wife's happy and their marriage is kind of, like, neutral again.
She's happier now that she's seeing him. A lot more settled down, like a lot calmer, and I'm not under surveillance anymore. I can just reel in whatever time I like.
Well, yeah, she even says, like, that they're kind of separated, but they're still together.
Yeah.
Like, she's allowed to go off and do whatever she wants, and she's happy with that, and he's happy because she comes home to him. And I'm like, that's not happiness. You know, that's just arrangement at the moment. You guys really need to get this stuff sorted. Like, even more so with, like, Simon's character. He's happy to accept this role. And then we've also got Dr. Hart, played by, you know, Littlefinger from Game of Thrones. Like, I just wanted to punch him so many times.
Yeah, he has a very punchable face, doesn't he?
Yeah, because he's always just twisting everything to suit his own comfortability. Like, he'll go up and he'll say some real nasty stuff to Father James about religion and how it affects his job of how he works in the hospital.
As an atheist doctor.
Yeah. But then I suppose he's antagonizing Brendan Gleeson's character to hit him, so then he can go, oh, look how violent the priest is towards me. I only called him every fucking name under the sun to get him to do it first.
It's the sequence in the bar where he comes up to him and he's like, I ever tell you about this mistake that a doctor made where he overdosed this child on this serum and that caused him to become deaf, dumb, blind, and paralyzed, and how he was still alive? And how he was trapped inside of his body, unable to scream, unable to call out, unable to feel his parents, unable to get up and walk. And, like, Father James stands up like, why did you tell me all of this horrible things?
Why?
And it's like, why?
Why?
Why the fuck would you tell me a story like that?
No reason.
To test his faith? To test his understanding of maybe having to euthanize or wanting to, or the idea of it?
Was the story even true? We don't know.
Did that actually happen to Dr. Hart? Was he the one that made the mistake?
That's the thing.
Was he secretly confessing?
There's a lot of dialogue in this film that is well written and well developed and well delivered, but I also would say isn't well enough to keep this movie on a positive level that by the end of it, I'm not wanting to kill myself. You know, that I just mean that might be a little bit too much for some people. But honestly, while you're watching this film, certain things are happening that you're like, where's the positivity in this movie, right?
Father James is the beacon of positivity and empathy in this.
No, he's not. I will argue there. What? Father James's dog, Bruno, is the symbol of positivity for Father James. There's a beautiful moment where he walks into the room and he sees the dog lying on the bed. And I'm like, that's amazing. You know, if you ever want an example of the good in the world and how God is great, you look at a happy dog while it's lying on your bed, you know, and sees you walking in like, oh, you're back. And he rubs his face. It was a beautiful moment with Brendan Gleeson. I absolutely loved it. With all the other shit that had been going on, I was like, well, at least this is a beacon of hope in the movie. It doesn't last. It's fucking taken away from you. And it's never explained. So how am I supposed to feel about that in the movie? Film?
Well, I know how you really like everything explained to you, so...
Well, I would just like something to play out. If you put something in the movie then it happens and it doesn't pay out, why was I supposed to feel that?
It has a pretty impactful piece of dialogue at the end of the film that recalls that moment, that situation.
It does, but then at the same time, after that dialogue is delivered, something happens and that still doesn't make me feel any better.
Yeah. Well, it may not also be explained, and it is a crime that they do get away with, but it's the film also highlighting that the Irish people have a distrust of the church, of the priests, because this is post-Irish Catholic Church child sex abuse scandals.
Yeah.
And so the animosity and the hatred towards all priests or all churches, and so they just strike out wherever, like... And it's heartbreaking because, yes,
I get that.
That dog didn't hurt no one. It just wanted to sleep and be loved.
Yeah, but I get that. And then I suppose I'm supposed to see the irony in that, where, you know, oh, you're caring for this, but you're not caring for that kind of thing. But I'm like, well, yeah, but the movie, you put that in my face. You put that in my face and made it a moment, where this, you kind of just mentioned it in the background. It's not really on me. We also have Kelly Reilly playing Fiona, who is Father James's daughter, and she turns up I wouldn't even say midway, it's about, 20-25 minutes into the movie, where her character has been in an abusive relationship, probably drugs as well, maybe, and she'd attempted suicide. But they keep making the kind of little joke, don't they, about how she did it wrong. She's supposed to go down and not across. Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't notice that first time around. But I've got to admit, their moments were really, really quite beautiful.
Yeah.
Even though that they were talking about, their history, their family history, the death of her mother through cancer, and then obviously Father James dealing with it in his way. Like, he talks about how he's got a drinking problem, or he had a drinking problem. Obviously, that must have damaged his relationship with Fiona, and then he's joined the priesthood, pushed her away. She's gone to do her own thing. Kelly Reilly, great actress.
Yeah, she's a really great actress. I remember her from Eden Lake.
Yeah.
And so it was a nice surprise to see her in this one as well. And she really brings home the warmth of family in this film.
Warmth?
Well, it's there on the surface, but as you watch the film that you peel away that there is some animosity there from Fiona towards her dad. Obviously, she calls him father because of the priest.
Yeah.
It also shows the separation of parentage here, where he's now behaving like a father to her, but without the kind of family bond. And that's something that both characters are building back up throughout the course of the film, and that's what I find really heartwarming, is that they are trying to accept each other's mistakes and rekindle their family that has been fractured, and how she has maybe gone off, attempted suicide, and now come back and is looking for forgiveness, or looking for acceptance, or looking for her father's love again, and
we're just looking for a place to heal up before she goes off and does her own thing again.
Yeah, but it may be vague, you might not know, but I feel like she has begun the healing process since she's arrived in this film, though.
I never meant to hurt you.
How could it not hurt me? I love you.
I love you too. Don't ever doubt that.
So one of the things I also find interesting about this film is that it is structured as we see the days ticking each chapter almost.
Yeah.
And so the film is broken down into the days of chapters. And the director said whilst editing this film that he found it relatively easy to keep the pace going, because you could take a scene from Friday and add it into Tuesday, take a scene from Wednesday, add it into Saturday. And he said he that was how he was able to balance the tone throughout the course of the film, and that's because you can pick and choose then which encounter with which of the random townspeople he's going to encounter next.
Yeah, and one of these characters is Milo, who is this bow tie wearing young guy. In comparison to, say, the other characters that we're interacting with, like Simon and Chris O'Dowd's character and Dr. Hart, like, Milo is very detached from society. He's very closed in, keeping himself to himself. But he does come to Father James at one point and starts to discuss with him how he feels like he should join the army because he's exhausted all of his potential at this point where he is in his life. He is going through a lot of porn and he's feeling these murderous tendencies. And once again, the film is attempting with the dialogue to make it kind of positive and funny what you're listening to, but what you're basically listening to is a very lonely man talk about how he's unhappy with his life, and that the only outgoing he can feel like is if he joins the army, which for a lot of people is the only avenue, and that they feel like, oh, if I go off and kill people for money, it will make my life better. And Father James is obviously explaining back, like, well, not really. Not the whole point of joining the army. There's many different reasons.
It could be considered a little bit psychotic to join the army during peacetime.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, I totally get it from what Father James is saying, but I also got it from this Milo's character, the actor, how you have people in the real world who sit there going, oh yeah, I'm so unhappy. I don't want to go outside. I don't want to socialize. I don't like people. But I need to do something. I need to get money and have a job. Oh, I know. I'll go join the army and kill people. Got to kind of trying to balance it. Maybe learn a skill first, then kill people.
Now, speaking of killing people, we will come across Emmett Walsh, who just wants to kill himself.
Yeah.
He's complaining about reaching old age, and he's like, when you're feeling old, it's something old people never tell you. He's just laying there, he's like, I want you to get me a gun. It's like, when I feel like I can't move anymore, I just want to take myself. I want James Bond's gun, the same type that Hitler used.
Yeah.
Like, oh, goddamn, Walsh.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sat there, I'm like, I'm laughing at him because he's a great actor, but at the same time, this whole conversation he's having with Father James, and the fact that Father James is really like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and he does. He goes off to the police officer.
Yeah, he goes off and he meets this police officer character that he's known for a few years, who's having a relationship with a local gay man, who's constantly putting on, I assume, a James Cagney impersonation.
I'll show you a good time, Father. Good time, Leo, that's me.
I kind of laughed at that character because that character at one point highlights about how he's been abused orally and anally so much through his life, but he's okay with it. He's accepted that's his role in life. And I was like, he should talk to Chris O'Dowd's character. You know, that would be, spoilers. But my point being is, like, the film's been running around with all this dialogue with this ever looming threat of this murder is going to happen. And so while we're interacting with all these different characters, we're also coming across little bits of information and red herrings going, oh, could it be him? No, the gay man's too happy with his life running around sleeping with all these
and his
police
accent's
officers.
so thick, it's definitely not him at the confessional.
That's it. It's definitely not the police officer because he's just a little bit too old and with his voice. And on top of that, he's willing on giving the gun to Father James. It can't be Emmett Walsh's character. He's way too old and can't move from his fucking house, so he's not going to walk all the way to confession down to a beach to shoot a fuck.
A little bit of trivia for you.
Yeah.
Is that the director actually hired somebody else entirely that's not in the film to do the confessional bit at the beginning.
Yeah.
But they got someone whose voice was similar to who it turns out to be, but not enough, because the director was like, it's not necessarily a mystery, but we don't want to tell you who it is. We want you guessing throughout the film, and you're going to meet some people that it could be. But, I mean, it's even though when you know at the end of the film, it's not going to spoil a rewatch, should you want to go through it again.
Jesus.
But I do think that was a nice bit of sleight of hand.
This or Sallow?
Oh, I'll take this.
We've also got Michael Fitzgerald, or Michael Richgerald, as I was calling him, played by Dylan Moran, who you might recognise from Black Books and Notting Hill with Julia Roberts. But he's playing this rich landowner whose family have all left him, including the nanny, and he's all alone in this house. And
you tell me it's not funny.
well, that's it. Like I was finding this funny as well because they come across him. You know, you've got Fiona and Father James taking this really beautiful walk, having this father-son talk, and he turns up on this horse, and I just. Like, it's Dylan Moran. He's just so funny. I still remember him being ripped apart in Shaun of the Dead.
Right.
So when I see him sat on a horse trying to act all hoity-toity, I'm like, that's funny.
But I also like Fiona. She's just like, you're a prick, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's like she's just like, sees right through his bullshit.
Yeah, and he's like, yes, I am. You know, and he wants to talk to Father James about some financial thing up at the house. And so Father James does go up to speak to him.
This is after the church has been burned down.
Yeah, just somebody burned it down.
Random act of arson.
At night, you know, they were in there. I was really worried that that's when the dog had died. That I was just like, oh my God, this is the part where they realised the dog was inside and it died in the fire. And I don't think I can live with that on top of everything else that's going on in the movie. But it won't. If you need a spoiler right now, the dog gets its throat slit. Yeah, that's where this movie's going. But he does go up to see Dylan Moran, and the conversation they have was really brilliant. But at the same time, again, it just felt like Fitzgerald was trying to antagonise the priest, you know, make him angry. But Dylan Moran's character had his own guilt, his own issues, you know, things that he wanted to repent for. But much like when Father James had gone to see the serial killer in prison, these people say they kind of want to repent, but they don't really want to. They just want to make themselves feel better, which I suppose in a funny way is going back and highlighting what the priesthood did to children when they were younger anyway, because they did these things, kept them secret, and then when they got found out, they went, oh, I want to repent, just to make themselves feel better. Fuck this movie.
Well, this film does have a lot to say, good and bad, about the church, you know,
Which are mostly bad things.
But it may have bad things to say about the church, but it has good things to say about the beliefs of the church.
Oh, yeah,
Not
yeah,
necessarily
yeah.
the religious
Yeah.
side of things, but
Yeah.
just how to be a good human.
Yeah.
And I have to say that I think this it may be my favorite scene in the film, and it is basically the scene between the two Gleesons, father and son. It's the only scene the two actors have together in the film.
Right.
And I just felt like the performances were so strong. Like the two actors know each other very well, and they just really cemented those characters. And the way that the serial killer was just looking like, yeah, I killed them, but now I want to repent, and I want the death penalty so I can go to heaven and show them how much I really love them. And
Yeah.
you're like, this is so sickening. It's
Yeah.
fucking disturbing.
Exactly, yeah.
But it was just an acting masterclass. I just loved them both in that moment.
But I loved it as well, where Father James Brendan Gleeson turned around and wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
You know, it felt actually like a turning point in the movie where Father James is like, no, I've got a job to do and I will listen to everybody, but I actually don't have to forgive your sins.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, no, that's really good. And I suppose, once again, the movie's done it in my head where by the end of the movie, that's the same kind of message you're getting to Father James. Because, like I said, as the week has gone on, he's just losing more and more stuff. The church has been burnt down. He's practically lost everything because he was living there. You know, his dog has been murdered, but we won't find out who it is. You know, he has violent confrontations with, like, he goes to the pub and he gets drunk, which kind of shocks everybody. And then, like, we get that brilliant montage with Brendan Gleeson just constantly drinking, you know, getting more and more absolutely plastered, to the point where you've got the barman and Simon sharing a joint in the bar, and they're telling the priest to go home, and he won't have any of it, and he pulls out the gun, kind of threatens them at the bar, and then shoots the bar up. And then he doesn't hurt anybody, but he proceeds to go get his ass fucking kicked by the barman, who pulls out a baseball bat. And it's like, as the movie comes to the end, Father James has got everything in order and is now planning on heading down to the beach.
Well, actually, he sends Fiona off first, who's going back to Dublin.
Yeah.
And then the next day, he actually goes to the airport. He drives to the airport. He's like, you know what? If I'm going to die tomorrow, I'm getting out of town. Why stay here?
Actually, that's a good point. We have forgotten to bring up another character, an outsider. And it's this French girl whose boyfriend has died in a car accident because they were driving on the wrong side of the road. And the car that they hit, all the people inside have died. And the boyfriend is on a life support machine. And so Father James has come to kind of give him last rites. And you have these kind of really beautiful moments between Father James and this girl where they share a prayer, and then, you know, he goes to the airport and she's there because they're moving the coffin of her partner onto the plane and things like that. I wouldn't say that they're uplifting moments, but they are kind of a breath of relief because she's an outsider. She's actually a nice person. Fiona's a nice character, but she's got a really dark history.
Yeah.
Every other character you've come across in this movie,
Deeply troubled.
and is a bit of a dick, you know? Like, they've got their reasons, but they are still very dickish. They said, though, Brendan Gleeson, Father James, he goes to the airport, he's planning on leaving, but then he heads back, and he heads down to the beach. He's got the gun on him. He doesn't give it to Emmett Walsh to commit suicide, but he does give him a positive message about, you know,
Good luck with the book. You're an awesome writer.
Yeah, go on.
I think it's the only time Walsh smiles in this film.
Yeah. Well, he is smiling when he's calling him other fucking nasty names at other points as well. Father James goes up to the cliffs, and I'm thinking, oh, is this where he's going to be confronted? But he throws the gun into the sea, and he speaks to Fitzgerald, And even though that they had kind of some nasty back and forth, Fitzgerald is a bit more...
Fitzgerald is contemplating jumping himself. That's why he's there.
But more repentive at this point.
Yes.
That's why, yeah.
And he talks him down and convinces him, like, you can still sort your life out. You can still make things happen for yourself.
Yeah. I'll come up to the house later on and we'll have a chat. And you're like, oh, this is where the movie's starting to come back up. You know, it's going to be a bit of a happy ending. He has a phone call with Fiona, and that's really loving because they do say I love you to each other. You know, it's like the last message, but it could be a continued message, I suppose. And then he gets to the beach, and it's beautifully shot, and it's looking so wide, and the sea's awesome, and you see this figure start walking along the beach with a gun. And it's Chris O'Dowd's character.
Yeah.
And he just fucking unloads, doesn't it? Not unloads the gun. He just unloads all of his anger, all of his hate, all of his, emotion. Chris O'Dowd, like I said, was absolutely amazing. If you've ever seen him in the IT crowd, you deserve to watch this to kind of say, hey, this is how far he's come. And he's absolutely fucking eating up the scene with Brendan Gleeson here.
He bears his soul here, and you really feel sorry for everything that he went through as a child.
Yeah.
And it hurts to hear him, hear this delivery. And Father James is like, he is so sorry that there's nothing that he can do to try to help him feel better. But he can talk to him and listen to him.
Yeah.
But the promise is the promise, and Father James does get shot right in the stomach, and he goes down.
Yeah.
And Jack Brennan's just like, all of these things happened to me, and you are going to be the one that I exact all this out upon.
Yeah.
But then the little boy from earlier that was painting comes running up. He gets told to run away.
Go
which
get
he
the
does.
authorities
Go
as
get
well.
the authorities. And then it's literally then an execution, gun to the head. Bang.
Yeah.
And that's the death of Father James.
All the way up to that point, I was hoping that it wasn't going to happen. I was like, oh, no, he's going to stop in a minute. He's not going to... But then the gunshot goes off, and you just see him hit the sand and the blood in the water. And I'm like, no, movie, you carried it out. Thanks.
Yeah, I think they had to do it in order for the film's message to really have an impact in the final sequences. We have a brief montage of all of the other disciples, going about their day or their resolution, either having money or joining the army or doing whatever.
Yeah,
so you get all these little moments of closure, but the real moment of closure is then Fiona in the prison waiting to see Jack Brennan, and they don't say a word to each other. They exchange a glance. And the emotion is all there. He is repentant. He knows he killed an innocent man, but he was psychologically damaged, and that was his out of venting all of that stuff. And so he's really sorry, but Fiona has already forgiven him. And even though she's crying a tear, she doesn't need to say it. Her eyes say it. And this comes back onto the last conversation she had with her dad, where they also both forgave each other for not being there for each other when they really needed it, and that hurts. It's beautiful to see that they've got that relationship back together. It's horrible knowing that his death is imminent and he doesn't say it to anybody other than a priest, like on Monday, like a week before. And then this final silent moment between the two characters here is just brilliant. Iain?
Yeah, well, that's it. I've got really no much to say about the movie, but other than, like you said, the pacing with the director, they had to deliver the kill at the end and deliver the ending they did to maintain the negative, dark pacing that they had from the start of the movie. I suppose, we see our own little jokes in the dialogue wherever we want to see them. It could be different to other people's, but it does maintain this whole kind of fucking tone all the way through.
I do also think that this film is fairly open to interpretation as well. I think you can get multiple readings from this film depending on your mindset.
Like
when you go into
religion.
it. Well,
Religion. Yeah, irony there, Gary. But the ultimate goal or message by the end of the movie is always going to be the same for everybody. You could have a bad background and dark history and things like that and do all these nasty things. But as long as you are really repentant by the end of it, then, you know, I suppose everything can be all right. You shouldn't do it in the first place. I mean, like, there's a shot that we see by the serial killer right at the end when they're doing a montage of characters, and it's a brief shot of him. Like, it looks like he's being beaten. Yeah. Is that right? Is that wrong? You know, is it right or wrong that he's being beaten after he's been murdered all these people? Who knows? Are we ones to make up that question? I don't know. You know, there's powers way above me that have not even got the answer.
Well, then, what were your favourite scenes from Calvary?
I suppose I really like the shots of Fiona and James going about their walks. You know, the director really captured some beautiful landscapes, some really beautiful imagery. There's also some great moments of dialogue in those moments. Like there's a moment where Kelly Reilly's walking with Father James and she talks about maybe just getting a cane. You know, it's just a fun little moment about her getting this cane, and he's like, oh yeah, you can hit people with them and things like that. Especially the same with his conversation with Milo in the church about Milo and why he's joining the army and all the things that he's exhausted. It's basically the same conversation you have with people in real life where you're like, look, you need to get out for a bit. Go away. Go see the world. Stop trying to see the world from this tiny little box and thinking that you know everything. Go out and learn, and you might actually change. The dog, Bruno. I love those bits. He comes in the room. He's sat there on the bed. I love that shot where they've sat in the car outside the fucking pub.
Yeah.
And he looked at the camera and you just knew that there was a whole set of people sat there looking at this dog. And the dog, does he understand? Does he know that he's a great film star? I don't know. And they fucking killed him. Cunts. You'll go.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. I think there's some really wonderfully acted moments in the film. I really like the opening sequence. It was a great hook at the start of the film to get you invested in this character and then in this world, and to want to follow it, this mystery, to the end. So great opening sequence. Again, also great closing sequence to the film as well, where it's just silent and it's about that forgiveness or that confrontation that we don't get to see. Great acting throughout the film. But there's one thing as well. It's like the film's title, Calvary. It's like the Calvary never came to help him at the end.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, no, wait a minute. There's got to be a deeper meaning to this. And Calvary actually is derived from a Latin word, calvare, and it's basically where Jesus Christ was crucified.
Right.
At Calvary. And it's a spot just outside of Jerusalem. I was like, okay, so... And then it makes you think that maybe Father James is basically a parallel for Jesus, who has 12 supporting characters, his disciples. One of them will betray him, and he goes throughout the film basically absorbing everyone of their sins, mostly of their sins, and showing them the right way or just to be good, and then about forgiveness, and eventually he does die for other people's sins, not his own.
That is true.
And so you've got this whole Jay-Z parallel throughout the whole film. And I was like, okay, so the title actually does make sense when you look at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also want to double down on Iain saying the cinematography in this film is sublime. The Irish landscapes are so beautifully filmed. You've got this like giant mountain in the background that's just like this ominous threat that's looming over everyone. The waves crashing up on the coast. It's a beautiful looking film. So yeah, really enjoyed that aspect to it. I'll also say one small down for the film for me is that the music in the film, it was appropriate, but sometimes it felt a little bit heavy-handed. Like, this is where you feel something, hit you in the feels with the music and double down on it. I was like, bit too much, but still fine. I mean, I have to bring it up, but there's a sequence when Father James like falls asleep when they're sat outside in the country.
Yeah.
And there's I don't remember the dialogue specifically about him being asleep for aeons, and I was like, oh, that's a choice word. And then I realized that Fiona's reading H.P. Lovecraft, so I was like, all I now like even more. There was a nice cut in the film, a nice little edit where Father James is in the burnt down church and he picks up one of the Bibles and then throws it, and it cuts to him in his room throwing a book into his suitcase as he's packing to get out of town for the weekend. So a nice little edit. Dr. Frank's speech in the bar about the doctor that made a mistake with the injection and overdosed the child. It's grim, but again, it's well delivered. Again, great acting.
Yeah.
And I think, my favourite scene is the darkest one. It is the most uncomfortable one. And that is the scene between the two Gleesons, the serial killer behind bars who wants the death sentence so he can go to heaven and be reunited with his victims. It's like, ugh.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
It's like as well where they follow on from that sequence where he's talking in the bar to the other priest and the cop about visiting him.
Yeah.
And the priest says something. And this young priest... throughout the movie had just been trying to do the best he could, his best job, but by the end of it you're like, look, you're really naive, you don't actually know what's going on and stuff like that. Especially when he says he get beaten up by a Buddhist and how horrible Buddhists could be. But the cop grabs the priest at the bar after he says something and throws him into a table, and the cop and Brendan Gleeson's character kind of share this look as if they're just in agreement that the priest went a little bit too far on how much, they could give a serial killer who doesn't know.
Yeah. Well, Iain, do you recommend Calvary?
I wasn't going to recommend this movie because I just found it just unsettling to sit all the way through because... Like I said, I like The Guard and I like In Bruges and I like sometimes dark comedy dialogue and things like that. But this one just didn't seem to be funny for me. And even when I laughed, I felt uncomfortable if I should have laughed at that point, and then I was questioning all these other things. But while I've been talking about this movie with my friend here for you guys at home, I've also been thinking of another movie that I would compare it to. And that would be Akira Kurosawa's Ikiru, which I think is from 1957, which I only recently watched about a month ago. And it follows basically a guy going throughout the entire movie facing his imminent death. And just the different people and situations and things that he interacts with throughout the course of the movie, ultimately where you end up dealing with him dying. Now, Ikiru is a little bit more uplifting by the end of the movie, and I think everybody should go watch this. But with this movie, I totally believe you should watch this one because this is like that, but the opposite. It's dark. It ends dark. It's dark all the way through. It's just dark, and there's just a gritty realism behind it that... We've said it so many times before, and I just like to hammer it home. If you like to sit there and watch horror movies and talk about how you like to be detached from society and how it makes you feel a stronger person, you need to watch shit like this to make you realize that actually being detached doesn't actually make you a stronger person. Community and working with people or taking on other people's sins or whatever, or just listening helps you become a stronger person, because there's a lot of weak people out there who are going to do some horrible shit. And if you can't stop them, you need to be prepared to deal with the aftermath and be like a Father James character. You may get killed by some horrible bastard who's had some nasty shit done to them, but as long as you can remain innocent in all of it, then at least something good will come out of it. I don't know where I'm going with this because I'm still really upset they killed the dog.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely going to be recommending Calvary. This is a must-watch. If you're looking for a blend of really dark humor and moral introspection, this is the film. It's unsettling at times, dealing with faith and guilt, regret, anger, and eventual redemption through a mixture of wonderfully realized characters and fantastic writing. Brendan Gleeson's performance in this again cements him, for me, as one of the greats. He's very affable in this, yet weary, filled with empathy and a good nature, and he's immediately captivating as a fascinating character study. Great cast all around. It really builds the whole world around Gleeson as the mystery behind the death threat looms over the whole film. great, even stunning cinematography with beautiful Irish landscapes and well-composed close-ups for the really emotional moments that also leave you pondering your own limits of forgiveness and compassion. It's a heavy-going film, and there is some levity, but I will say I think it is well worth a watch. Killing a priest on a Sunday? That'll be a good one. Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
Excuse me, won't you? I have to go kill somebody.